Hey, what's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the podcast. I want to share with something with you guys that I recently stumbled upon that's absolutely remarkable. It is a book that was recently put out, I believe, by the Steve Jobs Archive. It's called Make Something Wonderful, and you can just Google Make Something Wonderful. It is Steve Jobs in his own words. So the curators of this, the foundation, they went and they found all his speeches, all of his interviews, all of his emails, whether that was to other people or emails that he sent to himself, because Steve Jobs did a really interesting thing that a good buddy of mine, he does this too. And I do a version of it, but he would just send himself emails. So he would write out on a topic and then he would send himself the email. And I use different note-taking devices for this, but I think email is a really cool way to do this because it timestamps the message. So you can see exactly when it was sent and then be able to search it. And I think it's just a really cool way of saving your thoughts for posterity. Anyways, the Steve Jobs Foundation, they took all of these things, the interviews, the speeches, the emails, the communications that he had with people, the memos, and they put it into a book. And then they put it out there for free. It's like a 300-page book. You can go to Make Something Wonderful, and or not, I don't know if that's the URL, but just Google that, and it'll pop up. And you can download it onto your ebook, your Kindle. You can read it online. And it's just an absolutely remarkable book because Steve Jobs, I've never really consumed much about Steve Jobs. I knew of him in passing, which is really funny because a lot of people consider him to be greatest entrepreneur of all time. But for whatever reason, I just was never very interested. Maybe it was because I've just always been kind of like an Apple hater. And I'm starting to come around on it a little bit, but I think part of that was the reason I just wasn't all that interested in Steve. But as I've been diving into his worldviews, his thoughts, his perspectives recently, it's been incredible. And so I'm late to the game. You probably know a lot of this stuff, but I wanted to share with you this thought, this concept that kicks off this book. It's the prologue or the introduction, and it's from 2007. I don't know where this comes from exactly, but it's a thought that is so deep and profound for me, at least as a creator, and perhaps for you as somebody who's looking to become a creator or is a creator in some way, shape, or form, that I wanted to share it with you. So here's the passage. It says, there's lots of ways to be as a person, and some people express their deep appreciation in different ways. But one of the ways that I believe people express their appreciation to the rest of humanity is to make something wonderful and put it out there. And you never meet the people. You never shake their hands. You never hear their story or tell yours. But somehow, in the act of making something with a great deal of care and love, something's transmitted there. And it's a way of expressing to the rest of our species our deep appreciation. So we need to be true to who we are and remember what's really important to us. Make something wonderful. Man, this idea of whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, whatever you're trying to build as an entrepreneur or as a creator, if you're a writer or a musician or a podcast, whatever you're doing, make it with love, make it with care, make it the best that you can make it wonderful, because in making something wonderful, it is a love note to all the people that you will likely never meet who will encounter that thing and perhaps just maybe have their life positively impacted. This is something I think about a lot right now because I've transitioned in the last year or two from being just being an entrepreneur who's out there building businesses to being more of a creator who's trying to share thoughts that can help other people. Like this podcast is a great example of that. We do a daily podcast. The goal is to create new content every single day, in addition to the long form videos that we do on YouTube, in addition to the newsletter that we put out each week. We're putting a ton of energy into creating content that hopefully, if we do it right, can positively impact your life, help you navigate some of the issues that I've personally had to navigate, and maybe in some way improve your experience. And sometimes I'll admit it's hard. It's very difficult, especially the writing, like writing long form video or writing a newsletter that's 4,000 words, because I don't take these things lightly. I don't want to write just a 3-page newsletter. I want it to be deep and chewy and meaningful, and I want it to be impactful. And so a lot of time and energy goes into it. For instance, the newsletter that went out this last week, put 6.5 hours into it. It took me 6.5 hours to write that. And the thought that I just had going in the back of my mind, because sometimes in that writing process, you start to wonder, what's the point? What am I doing here? Why does it matter? And there's still such a disconnect between what you're creating in that moment and the person on the other side of the world who's maybe going to consume it at some point in the future and have their life positively impacted as a result. There's so much space between those two things, the completion and like that reaction that the person has, that as the creator, you can get lost and feel like, what's the point of all this? Well, the point is the creation itself, the act of making something wonderful, is this way of giving back to the world something that is unique to you, that only you could do, that the world never had and never would have had if it hadn't been for you taking this time to pour your love and your passion to whatever you're creating. And whether or not anybody ever actually reads it isn't really the point. I think there's so much profound purpose and fulfillment and meaning to be had in the act of creation. And so I encourage you, wherever you are in life, whatever you're doing, and we all create in different ways. It's not just about painting or writing or music or videos. It's not about that. It's about, we all have different ways of creating. That could be as a parent with your child. You're helping co-create this amazing human being who's going to go on to do incredible things, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, do it with love, with passion, with purpose, and make something wonderful. Man, I don't know. That something about that idea just gives me chills. So I hope this brought you a little bit of value. If it did, do me a favor, drop a comment. Let me know, what are you creating right now? What wonderful thing are you working on that you can't wait to share with the world? Let me know. Shoot me a DM. Twitter, I'm at Anthony Vicino. On Instagram, I'm the Anthony Vicino. On YouTube, I'm Anthony Vicino. So come find me. Come join in the conversation. I'm looking forward to meeting you all. And as always, I'm looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. But until then, stay hyper-focused.